And welcome to another exciting episode of The Energy That Surrounds Us. I'm your host, Michael, and tonight I am going to do one thing before I introduce my guest that I haven't done in a while, and that is I'm going to post really quick these comments from the networks that I am a part of, and so grateful to them for allowing me to air my episodes through them and their support and everything. So thank you so much for them. And I have tonight a guest who I feel like will totally blow y'all's minds. She is amazing. She is such a wonderful person. I enjoy talking with her online about all kinds of things. So, in my viewpoint, you all are in for a large treat. And without any more of my just rambling on about her, I am going to turn it over to the one, the only, incredible, amazing Selena Ingles.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Glad you could be here. Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Hi, Ratchet Baby.
So, for those who aren't maybe familiar with you for one reason or another, I can't
hmm
imagine that, but who knows? Could you give a little bit of your background for everyone and introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Selena Ingles, and I've been studying paranormal and metaphysics for about 3 years. I've been studying under a mentor who has helped me also, but he's kind of like Yoda. So he will like whenever I ask a question, he answers a question with a question. So the majority of the work that I've done on my own has been on my own, but just like a little bit of guidance. And I am also a student, double majoring in psychology and social work. And ultimately, my goal is to help people become the best versions of themselves that they can be.
That is an incredible goal. We need more
Thank
of
you.
that in this world. So
I
thank you
agree.
for that.
Well, thank you. And thank you for having me on, Michael, because you're like that too.
Well, thank you. I do my best. And I'm kind of curious because one thing I thought that's always interesting is when we talk about like metaphysics, just like the paranormal community,
hmm
everybody has their own viewpoint and none of them are wrong. And so I always find it interesting to kind of look at different people's views of some of the ideas that they've come across or not, and just, kind of learn and grow.
Yeah.
So, what is your favorite metaphysical principle you've come to learn so far that you're like, oh man, this so explains a lot of things?
Well, I think for me, one of the biggest metaphysical principles that I've learned that really explains a lot of things to me is that the universe is always in balance. So where there is good, there's also dark. So at the same time, like there's always got to be a balance and there's always duality. So oftentimes, like when we think it and we imagine in our minds a virtue that we want to have within ourselves and we worry that we don't have it. But if we have the vice that's opposite of that, all we have to do is like work on alchemizing ourselves into that state of mind, and it's really easy to do. And once you're able, well, it's not easy, I mean it's hard. And once you're doing the actual work, then you realize that, like, hey, like, since everything is in balance, if I do this, then this happens, and if I do that, then this happens. And I think that um since I learned that everything is a balance between light and dark, I've been able to find balance within myself, and that balance with myself has made me feel comfortable within my own beingness, because I used to think that spirituality was all about being in the light. And in reality, when people say that spirituality is all about the light, it's somewhere they go to hide. It's not somewhere they go to grow. And I believe that everything is in balance, and we have to find that inner balance within ourselves, whether we are deciding or debating within ourselves if this decision is right or this is not right. We have to find that within ourselves. And once we find that within ourselves, our outer world reflects that.
I
That's my
agree.
opinion.
And to me, the one that I feel like I had the hardest time learning, and but once I learned it, it was like a whole lot of doors just opened up and made sense to me and relieved stress, is the
Yes.
principle of choice.
Oh, yeah, totally. I love the principle of choice.
Because to me, I learned choice was you can be walking down a street and decide to turn left and decide, well, this left turn was a mistake, so let me just make a right, make
Yes.
another right. I'm right back where I started, and now I can take the other direction.
Yeah.
And there's no problem with that. And so, what that taught me in life was, whenever you find you've made a wrong step in life, there is no wrong steps. That it's just you've now reached the point of saying, hey, I've learned what I've learned on this path, so time for a new one, and that's quite all right.
Yes. And I think, like, what I've learned is there's no absolutes. So we frame in our minds the way that we think things should go, but oftentimes those are not the reality. And what we can do is frame it in a way as like, well, I don't necessarily agree with what this person is doing or what this person is saying, but their reality might be real for them, where for me that's not the reality. And the fact is, since there are no absolutes, we have to be able to be open minded and allow for other people's belief systems, because I think one of the major things that happens within this community is that we will judge people based on what their experiences were, and those experiences that someone had are not necessarily the basis of their belief systems. Like, those were a paranormal or an outrageous act that happens, like, out of the norm for people, that totally change them. And I think that being flexible and having open mind as for like what can happen and what could happen is important too, because we never know. We never know, like, and there's so much about this reality and this realm that we don't understand, that for us to take a stance and say this is the absolute truth, that's not always the truth, because it's subjective based upon the viewer. Hi, Amber
That's
Rose.
that's true, and I just want to add to that. Along with that, paranormal speaking and otherwise, there is one part of the metaphysics that to me is like a double edged sword. In one hand, it makes a lot of sense and it helps you grow, but on the other hand, it's like puts things in your path that it's like you may not want to look at, but it's like tough. The universe has decided it's time to look at it.
Yeah.
And that's what I call the mirror effect. Are you
Oh, the
familiar
mirror
with that?
effect. Yes, I'm very aware of the mirror effect. Often, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but the mirror effect is basically like we are projecting out. what we view of ourselves, and we mirror back to us what we are ourselves, our own thoughts, beliefs, and understanding of the world around us. It's also based upon psychological principles, such as the psychosocial principle, where we are going to attract people who have the same viewpoints as us. So, and we're going to start like picking up in the world things that are within our subconscious minds. So, since we are able to direct the ship, because the ship, these bodies, these vessels are essentially our ships, and they can be directed very easily because human beings can't pay attention for much longer than 7+ bit seconds, and because of that, we can direct where we're going, we can direct our consciousness.
Right. And the double edged sword effect that I was referring to is, like, for example, if I was to say, oh, I enjoy your laugh, I enjoy, the conversations and your positive viewpoint on a lot of things. When in essence, what I'm saying is, I enjoy my laugh and positive
And
viewpoint
your
on things.
viewpoint on things.
And at the
Yeah.
same time, if I'm like, man, that person was really rude today to me,
Hmm.
there's the mirror effect says, well, you were rude today. And it's like, I don't know that I was rude. How was I rude? And it's like, that's where I view the double edged sword of it is, because it's like, yeah, you start looking at everything going on and going, did I really play a role in this? Is this really me? Or why am I seeing this and picking this up? Where is this in my life?
Sorry. Mm. Yeah, I agree with you, and I think that like I do like that principle, and I think it's very compelling, and that's something that for me always keeps me in check because I oftentimes, if I find myself judging someone in something, it's because I dislike that within myself, or if I am looking at someone and admiring a quality within them, I admire that quality within myself, and so it's all about our perspective and how we individually view the world and how we interpret people's reactions around us based upon our own belief system. And that's something that we always have to keep in mind is that not everyone's going to have the same belief system and not everyone's going to have the same understanding of why and how we do things.
Yeah. And I'm curious because I know in our conversations you're fairly new to paranormal investigations, but you follow a lot of topics. So, do you find that, you when you're looking at paranormal, say, claims or locations, do you find you going and saying, okay, this is what they say, but metaphysically, what could be happening here?
I actually find that myself doing that all the time now that I have a deeper understanding of the laws of the universe. And like I'm often wondering, am I creating all this? Is my perspective like the one that's really pushing this or that? Because oftentimes it's even down to our own triggers. So like when we are experiencing the world around us, oftentimes it's not always love and light. Like a lot of times we're experiencing our worst versions of ourselves within human form. And how we react to them is how we react within ourselves. And so, what I have found personally for me is that giving people grace and understanding and love is something that is paramount in my mind because none of us have it figured out. But what we're doing is we're picking up on each other's frequency and we're projecting and receiving each other's messages as best as we can understand it at the level we can understand it because everyone interprets the world completely differently. Even if, say, like for example, you interpret the world as far as like kinesthetically, so you would imagine the world like in physical motion, and then what if I view the world as in visuals, And so there's a disconnect, and I think that's between every single person and every single human being there's a bit of a disconnect because we all understand the world differently based upon our own individual experiences, our how we were raised, the things we're going through at the current time, and a number of factors that we just can't say on a day to, we can't determine day to day. And so the world is subjective based upon mostly how we feel within ourselves about ourselves.
I can agree with that, and I can actually relate to that. And this is one of those rare moments. I don't even think I can even add to that. I think it was so well said that it's like, yeah,
Thank
I'm
you,
kind of
Michael.
speechless about it. So, what got you interested in metaphysics?
Well, um, so this is kind of like a complicated story, but about 4 years ago, I would say, I was with somebody and we were watching this show called The Mars Chronicles. I don't know if you remember that show or ever heard of it. It's not super popular, but it was with this one guy who was crazy, I think, and then who was definitely like some kind of like informant on like all that stuff. I didn't know that then though. And he had a guest on, and his name was Dan Willis. I don't know if you know who Dan Willis is, but Dan Willis went on his show and he started talking about the secret space program. And because he started talking about the secret space program, actually something within my mind triggered me to say, well, I think that I was involved in something like that because I've had these flashback memories. I've had all these things that have happened that are really outside my personality. Because if you had known the version of me like 5 years ago, I would never be on a show like this. I wouldn't understand any of these concepts. I wouldn't have known anything about this stuff. And I looked him up and I found Robert Khalil, who is on the Typical Skeptic podcast, and I started watching his show. And I also found him on Danny Henderson's show, and that kind of opened up to me like a different way of thinking that I had no idea that existed before. And then through Danny Henderson's show, I ended up meeting my mentor, who actually helped me and ended up changing my entire life. Actually, it got me out of an abusive situation because I ended up reaching out to him because I felt this connection. I felt like these like really good feelings in my body and my soul, and then I reached out to him and he helped me, and I figured out why I kept attracting the same type of abusive situations over and over and over. And once I realized why, then I was able to not only get myself out of it, but to like thrive. Like I was able to move on. I was able to become the true version of myself that I had allowed to be hidden for so long.
No, that's beautiful, and I am so grateful. And I have to give a shout out to Robert Khalil as well because he's a great friend, and I love his shows, and I catch him when I can, and I can't keep up with him, and I'm like I
He's
look
got
at
too
him,
many shows a day.
yeah, he does like 5 a day, and I'm like every day, and I'm like I can barely manage 3, let alone 4.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, I feel the same way. I'm a moderator and I can't always keep up with what he's got going on. Yeah, he works very hard.
He does, and Danny Henderson does great with the G6 conferences. I enjoy
Yeah, she
those, and
does. My mentor was actually, she went to one of the schools that my mentor had back in the day. And so she was a former student of his. So, like, I don't know her personally, but I like her. But yeah, so she's cool.
yeah, I haven't met her personally, but yeah, I've seen her at the first G-Sick, and we watch the live feed streams if we can't make it out there. So
Yeah, she's funny and she's silly, and I like her. I mean, I like all the silly stuff she does. Like, I seen a video she recently did with like the glasses, and I really enjoyed it. I mean, I like it. She's funny.
yeah, and she does great as a podcast host. I enjoy
She
her
does.
weekly shows.
Me too.
Now, so I understand, the draw to the metaphysics. So where did the paranormal fit into this?
Well, I mean, I guess the paranormal came in kind of as a companion because as I started expanding my awareness and my consciousness, I had more and more and more paranormal experiences. And I have always been a very skeptical person. So, like I said, like a few years ago, I would have never believed that any of this stuff existed. But then, as I started growing and learning and expanding my awareness, I started having more and more paranormal experiences that could not be explained just simply. And once I had reached that awareness, then since then, I have had so many different experiences that cannot be explained. And um, I just started being able to understand things in a different way that I wasn't open to before. And I think that's how that comes into that.
So is there one in particular that's like your favorite paranormal experience you like to share?
I don't know if I have one in my favorite, but I will tell you one that I remember right off the bat. Like when I very first started getting into this stuff, and I had no idea about any of this stuff. I had no idea. And I was working as a photographer at the aquarium in St. Louis. And that day I came in and I thought I was dead because I seen all this weird stuff. But I worked as a photographer at the very front of the aquarium, and people were coming in, and as they were coming in, I was seeing them completely differently than as human beings. Instead, I seen them as their true selves, their true beingness. And I remember seeing people, for example, like one person had one eye over here that was spinning around in a circle, and then one eye was straight ahead. And then I seen, and I like there was about 6,000 people that came through that day because we it was Memorial Day weekend. A lot of people came through, and we had a lot of volume. And then I also seen people with elf ears. I also seen a witch with eyes that bugged out like this, boom, 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 like the cartoons, you know. And I like literally would pinch myself, like, am I drunk? Like, am I dead? Like, is this? If I'm dead, why am I at work? You know. And then I realized, no, I'm not dead. This is real. Like I'm really seeing people for who they really are. And since then, it's been like a whole, because it was such a visceral experience that it was shocking almost, you know, because I had never experienced anything like that before in my life. And then most recently, I think that one of my favorite metaphysical experiences is that my friend Melissa, who lived next to me before she died, because when I moved in this apartment that I'm in now, she was here. She had been here for 10 years, and she ended up passing away from pneumonia, which was all of a sudden. And on the day that she died, I was at work. And when I was at work, I felt her hand come on my shoulder over here, and she put her hand on my shoulder and she said, "Thank you, Selena, for being a good friend to me," you know? And everybody said she's going to be fine, like she's okay. And then it was in that moment that I realized that I was capable of being a medium as well. And I cried because I had spent a lot of time trying to work with her and like make her life better so she didn't feel like she wanted to give up, you know? And I had been hearing in my mind a lot of times, like, take the exit, take the exit. And for a while, since because I'm somewhat telepathic, and I didn't know that sometimes we hear other people's thoughts, they're not our own, but they sound like our own thoughts, you know. And when the thought came to me, like, take the exit, I'm like, fuck you, motherfuckers, I'm not dying yet, bitches, you know, because I have 3 kids and everything. And then later, when she passed away, and she told me like, you know, Selena, like, thank you for making my life better, like you helped me by being my friend at the end. And I cried and I cried and cried, but it was one of the most beautiful experiences that I've ever had the privilege to have experienced.
No, and that's a beautiful gift to have received.
It was.
And such a beautiful way to actually learn about another gift that you have.
Yeah, it was.
And so, a question I get asked a lot, and I know a lot of people ask mediums, so I'll just get it out of the way now, is
Hmm.
how do you turn it on and off?
Well, I don't know if it works the same for everyone, but all I have to do is push myself. So I entrain with people. So whatever it is, like I will say like the name, and then I will imagine pushing my consciousness aside, and then I will bring in their consciousness, and then I will feel whenever they're feeling within my body and my mind. And then from there, I am able to do energy work or healing or anything that needs to be done.
Okay. It almost sounds like Reiki.
It's kind of like Reiki, except for I don't use my I utilize like outside. So like I use myself, but I'm not draining myself. So I'm not like taking all of my energy within my being and then like using it to project to heal them. Instead, I'm taking the energy around them and I'm using that energy around them to help heal them and help them or protect them or do whatever it needs to do for them. So essentially, all I'm doing is being kind of like a guide for themselves because for me as a healer, what I've learned the most is that no healer actually heals you. All they do is they set an example for you to heal yourself. And that's what
Right.
I've learned.
And as a Reiki master, I have to thank you for saying that you don't use your own energy, because that is actually not what you're supposed to do, because you're creating attachment to that person, and that
Yeah,
person will siphon you down because
yes. And you'll
they
get
don't
sick.
know
You'll
it.
get ill. They don't know it. Yes.
So thank
And
you for
that's a
sharing that.
You're welcome. And that's just something that I see with like rookie healers is they'll often like be like, I'm totally gonna heal this person, and they like project all their energy and they like exchange their energy for their own that other person's for their own, and like you can't because then it absorbs within your body, within your being. So that person ends up being fine for a minute, but then they end up going back to how they were before, because eventually it's not going to last unless you're utilizing and helping them within themselves realize, hey, this is what I need to heal. And within my own self, within my own being, I have the authority to heal myself from anything.
Right. And the way I liked it was, you know, not necessarily utilizing their energy. That seems like a good idea,
Yes.
actually. I always tapped into the universe and just
I
let the
tap into the
universe
universe
flow
too.
through.
Yes.
So then if they are like,
But it,
oh man, I
but it's,
need more, they have an
yeah,
infinite
but it,
supply.
yeah, and it's supported by their own desire to heal too, So like you tap into the universal energy and then you tap into their own beingness and you tie those two together and allow that person and the universe to build a personal relationship. And once they build a personal relationship where the universe understands what that person wants, then the person is able to tell the universe what they want, even though they think that you're the one that did it, but then they're communicating within themselves of what they want done, and that communication within themselves ends up projecting out to the universe within source, which ends up coming down and healing within themselves. And that's how I've done it.
Right. And that's really close to how I do it too sometimes. And
Yeah.
one of the things that I think is important to note, and I'm not sure if this has come up for you though, but as you talk about like being an energy healer,
Hmm.
there are, you can be trained in so many ways, but the universe is going to utilize its own way. And by that, I mean, I could be, for example, hypothetically, working on you and going,
Yeah.
oh, lightning energy is coming in, and utilizing that and be like, I don't know why I'm using lightning energy. I should be using this energy in this spot, but we're working in this spot. And the benefit turns out that, the person gets great relief. And I think that's the important thing for people to realize is yes, you can be trained to do things, you can learn things, but you have to be open to what you don't know and embrace what
Agree.
you don't know, because that's where the true gift is. If you can utilize the unknown, then you're truly understanding and doing what you're supposed to be doing, in my opinion.
I agree with you. Yeah, because I think it's like within that risk of the unknowing that we find the magic because like nobody knows what they're doing, but like those who dare to dream bigger than themselves, like those are the ones who are really going to make things happen, because there's no rules. Like everyone says like, well, have you learned to heal this way or this way? But really like all of us are capable of healing ourselves. All of us are capable of healing other people. It just comes to having an understanding that you are an authority within yourself, that you are capable of doing it. And I think that understanding that is a big key in being able to do it.
Right. And one thing I like that you were pointing out was, taking care of yourself
Mhm.
and others, because we all forget the ancient saying that kind of started the whole metaphysics and physicians and medical history in ancient times was one saying. There was one saying that went to everything, and that was physician, heal thyself, meaning you can't
Yes.
heal anyone unless you heal yourself.
Yeah, and I think that if you take it further, it means basically like learn to love and accept yourself. And if you can get to a place within your own being where you are okay with yourself, that's like halfway the key to like understanding and unlocking the gifts of the universe, because the entire narrative of our reality is that we should hate ourselves, that we should not take care of ourselves, that we should push ourselves aside, that we should not pay attention to our needs and wants instead of pay attention to the greater collective. But really, if you can't pay attention to what you need and what you want, how can you help anyone else? You know? And
Right.
that's one of the biggest life lessons that I feel like I've learned for myself. Because like you like it's paid, like the world is paved in good intentions, but until you can find that within yourself to really love yourself and accept yourself, forgive yourself, then that's where like the magic is. Kiki.
Right. And the biggest disservice I think society started, and I kind of feel like, my personal opinion, so don't everybody take this as fact or anything. This is my personal opinion. I feel like when religion got taken over by the quote monarchs and everything that wanted to use it to control the masses,
Hmm.
we in turn lost the sense of who we were, because that's when all of a suddenly, like, I would be told I was being selfish if I was like, well, I need to heal my arm before I can heal you, because I need to
Yes.
take care of myself. And they're like, well, that's selfish. You need to take care of them first. And I'm like,
No.
no.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, and I think that a lot of people feel like that. I think a lot of people are looking out in their external world like, well, if I fix this and I fix this, then I'll have time to like work on myself, or if I do this or that, then I'll finally be able to do this for myself. And it's like the biggest trick to all of this is you have to do what you want to do for you. Like you have to take care of you. And if you can't take care of you, you can't take care of anyone else, because you're always going to be lacking within yourself, and you're going to reflect and like create relationships that are imbalanced because you're not able to take care of yourself. You're always going to be feeding into other people when, the whole lesson was for you to learn how to give that to yourself, you know?
Right. And Jason makes a great point here, is when you fly, they tell you secure your mask before assisting
Hmm.
others. And
That's
it's like
right.
the only time I've ever seen or heard anyone say, take care of yourself so you can take care of others.
Hmm.
So you had mentioned beforehand, if you, and I don't know if you're wanting to, or feeling drawn to it, but I hear your bleh. Wow, I can't talk all of a sudden. It's like, it's almost like they don't want me to say
It's
it,
the
but
archons. No, okay.
I hear your cards are clicking, and so I'm like, "Ooh, are
Oh,
you feeling drawn to the cards for something?"
I can pull cards for anybody if they want me to, but I mean, I could pull a card for you too if you wanted. It's up to you. I just play with them and give me comfort, but it's whatever you want to do.
I'm open for myself, and
Okay.
I'm not sure about opening it up to the chat
Everyone
room
else?
only because we only have a finite amount of time.
Okay. All right. Let me pull a card for you then, Michael. Oh, I can shuffle in the air. I'll show you my trick. People were like, "How did you do that?" Oh, I'll show you. So, and keep your finger at the base.
I will say I'm impressed on two front. One, that yes, you did that midair, and two, I cannot even shuffle that way. I have to do the where you got the cards
You're
and
like,
slotted. I'm like, I can't do the bending and combining. I've never learned that trick.
"I'll teach you." I used to be a blackjack dealer too, so I mean that's part of the reason why I can deal. I used to be right there in the Sin City when people were getting drunk and wanting to deal. So I've seen all kinds of things. So the card I got for you is the Hermit. And so what I am basically getting from this card is that you have felt the need recently to withdraw from a lot of people, places, and things in order to gather your own energy and protect yourself. And you're wondering if you take time for yourself, whether or not it will give you insight that you need in order to go to the next step. And the answer is yes, it will help you. And it's important for you to take time out for yourself. The same amount of energy that you would focus on other people is the same type of energy you should focus within. And that's the Hermit card. Do you see it? I don't know. It doesn't, it blurs it. I don't.
No, I can see it. It looks really cool. That is a cool deck.
Oh, thank you. My friend Deb, Orc Vibe, she got me these cards last year for my birthday. And they're like gold. You see how cool they look? And they're on
Yeah,
Amazon. Yeah. Was
and
your reading accurate or?
it was. And one of the things that saw interesting, and I don't know if I was seeing the card right or if it was just blurry, but talking about like symbolism, like we were backstage before we came on. To
Mm-hmm.
me, it looked like the hermit was standing with a staff
He
with like a
was. Yes, he was.
with a wormhole or a vortex behind him opening up.
Yeah, he was. So you're gonna open like more portals within your mind and more areas for you to explore just by like taking that inner time to like recognize yourself, you know?
And the staff, I've often wondered, why is it like hermits, magicians, the sages, all the people of wisdom have always been pictured holding a staff.
Mm. I think that for me, and I don't know this like, for sure, but I feel like the staff represents like having control of their own emotions and their mind. Because like the wands are representative of like emotions. And then like when you are holding on to a staff, like you are in control of your own inner world. You have complete sovereignty like over like your mind. So it's about like overcoming everything around you to have complete control over who you are right now and what you will and will not allow to be entered into your mind.
I like that actually.
Thank you.
So do you ever do for yourself, like pull a card for yourself and be like, oh, okay, yeah? Or are you one of those, I can't read for myself, I gotta go ask someone else?
Um, Sometimes I read for myself, and sometimes I have a hard time. So I'm often like asking other people around me if they can like read for me or if they can read into my energy. Because for me personally, and I don't know if this is like it how it is for everyone, but it's harder for me to read my own self. It's harder for me to read my own emotions, or it's harder for me to read my own situations because I'm so close to it. But for other people, I never have an issue, but for myself, sometimes I do have an issue. Yeah. So it just depends.
And I also wonder if, because I'm the same way at times when I read for myself, it's like I clearly see what the cards are saying.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, if this was anybody else, I'd be like, yeah, this is what they're saying. This is what's going on.
Yeah.
But when it's me, I'm like, not really wanting to gel with this because I'm just not feeling this right now. And maybe I'm just not ready to look at this. And I'm like, nope,
Yeah.
this doesn't work.
Yeah. No, that's exactly how it is for me too. And I think that's how it is for everybody for themselves. I mean, I don't know because I don't know a lot of people that read for themselves, but I mean, I have an awareness of everything around me. But when it comes to like my own struggles, battles, demons, things that I am like trying to overcome, sometimes it's hard for me to take an outsider's viewpoint to look inside to me and say, "Hey, Selena, this is what you need to do," because I'm in the trenches, like we're at war. I'm in the trenches, like dealing with it with my subconscious mind, you know, and that makes it harder. That's what I think.
Right. And I wonder too, and yes, I noticed I'm probably going to get feedback that I keep saying right so much tonight. But I noticed, and I had a friend who showed this trick to me, and I'm wondering if you're aware of it and what your thoughts are around it with like the tarot and everything is when we talk about the swords, like say you pull the 10 of swords and everybody's first reaction is, "Oh my god, you're a warrior. You're going to go to battle because you drew the sword." And he
Hmm.
goes and he pointed out and he goes, "Now, what happens if you take the S in the front of sword and move it to the back? What do you have?"
No words.
And he goes, "And the sword cards are all about communication." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Really?" And I was like, as soon as he shared that with me, I was like, "Oh my gosh, this makes so much sense now." And it's like, I look at the card and I'm like, okay, now I understand why I'm getting this information and that information because it wasn't gelling when I see a sword in the ground going, "You're having a hard time talking." Because I'm like, well, yeah, you got a sword in you. Most people would.
Yeah. Yeah. You couldn't get a word out if you had a sword in you. Yeah.
So, yeah, I was wondering if you had ever heard that.
No, I never heard that, and I actually really really loved it, and I'm gonna use it. I loved it.
Go for it.
And kudos to whoever did that. Great job.
Actually, that was my friend William Henry.
Well, William Henry, you are on top of it.
Yeah, He, yeah, I studied with him some, and we've been good friends for like 20 years. And yeah,
That's a
it's
long time.
amazing some of the things that you can see right in front of you that
Hmm.
you're like, how have I never seen this before?
Yeah. I feel like also, isn't it crazy when you have a friend that long and you think that like you live your life pretty like separate from them, and then you're like, they're not going to notice this or that. And then like when you talk to them, they're like, "Oh, by the way, I noticed you changed this or that," and you're just like, "How did you know?" And they're like, "Well, because I've known you for 20 plus years, just like
Yeah,
that's how it is.
I agree. And one of the things that was most interesting was I got to go on a Nile cruise through Egypt
Oh,
with him
cool.
and go to sacred temples that related to chakras and go on like that journey. And it's amazing when you look at these structures and the hieroglyphs and the colors and everything when you're there and you're like, wow. But when you're really in tune to the energy and everything, you sit there and you go, and I noticed this with some of the other people that I still talk with that went on the trip. You stand there and you feel like you're standing in the same space that they stood 1,000 years ago. Someone stood in that space and you can feel them and feel like this has not changed. You can feel the emotion that they felt is the same as your emotion, you're feeling. And it's like one of the unique places in history and on the planet to me that you literally can go and you feel like you're walking through history because everything is the same. I mean, and I'm not
Yeah,
meaning like there's no cities or anything, because, yeah, cities are there. But I mean
right.
like walking the Avenue of the Sphinxes or walking.
I I want to go to Egypt really bad. I it would be amazing. I can't imagine how the energy feels there.
The one thing I will say about Egypt, and I know this is going to sound so surprising because it is desert,
Hmm.
you don't notice the heat.
Really? Is it like kind of like it's not a humid? It's not a humid heat, or
Personally, my opinion is I feel like the energy of everything around there kind of, in a way, acclimates you. So the energy is like keeps the sun from bearing down and like overheating or making it too cold and you're like freezing. It's like the energy keeps you in a constant state of
of warmth?
comfort if you're
Nice.
if you're embracing it. Now, I can't say, you know, everybody that goes there is never going to go, "Oh my god, I'm overheating," cuz I mean, people do. I mean,
Right.
but I think there's a difference when you can tap into the energy that's there. And I stayed in an area that was at the foot of the pyramids when we were in Cairo. And I gotta say, there is just something about walking out of your room into the courtyard, turning around, and being like, bam, there's the pyramid.
Yeah. It sounds magical. I can't even imagine. I haven't really gone anywhere like that, but I do want to do that like next. Like that's one of my big goals is start traveling. Um, and I definitely want to go to Egypt and experience that and look at all of those ancient things.
Actually, there is one place nearby you that is very similar in nature, energy wise.
Are you
I don't
talking
know if
about Cahokia Mounds?
I am.
I've been there. Yeah. So that used to be about 5 minutes from my house, and I used to walk my dog there. So I enjoy Cahokia Mounds. I like it a lot, and there is like a great energy there too, for sure.
And I don't know if you've come across it, but I'm going to give a shout out to another show that are good friends of mine's. They were guests on my show, my other show, and that is Tyler and Aaron, The Journey to Truth. They
Yeah, I
did a
like Tyler and
whole
Aaron.
Yeah, they did a whole episode on Cahokia And when I was watching that, I was like, man, I've been there 5 times and never knew this. And
I know. I felt the same way when I seen that too. I was like, I didn't know any of this stuff about it, but it's very cool. You can
yeah,
definitely feel it.
I want to go back and see if it feels different now that you know what you know.
Me too. I want to go back too and like try to experience it differently.
Yeah. The Garden of the Gods. Which Garden of the Gods are you talking about, Jason?
In
Because
Illinois, I've been there
oh,
once.
is there one in Illinois?
Yeah, or it might be in Missouri. Where is it at, Jason?
Because I know of the Garden of the Gods in the Middle East. I know of one in, I believe there's even one in France, and UK has one.
I want to
Oh,
go to
he says
France too.
Illinois.
Illinois. That's close to me.
So, is there any place that, like, I know you and I have talked about paranormal, wanting to get out and investigate. Is there any place like you have just been drawn to, like on the paranormal side or
Yeah.
metaphysical side?
Yeah, I want to go to the Northern Lights. I feel really drawn to go to the Northern Lights and experience the energy there because once in a meditation, I had this like really deep meditation about like, where am I from and like, what's the meaning of life? And it was like, basically kind of one of the messages I got was like, you're from the Northern Lights, like you come from within the Northern Lights. And ever since then, I've really wanted to go there. I wanted to photograph. I wanted to see how the energy feels and see if it feels like home because part of me has always felt very displaced. Like this world is not my home. And I don't know if it's because I need to go experience other places and I've just been stuck here because, it's where I grew up at basically. But definitely the Northern Lights for me.
That's interesting. I've never thought of being from the Northern Lights. I always view them as like what science tells us is it's gases in the atmosphere reacting to the light and
Hmm.
creating this imagery.
Yeah, I don't
But
believe that. It's something different. It's something special. It means something different to me.
yeah, and now that I think about it, it's like, yeah, there's got to be a source because it moves around. And so if it's
Hmm.
certain conditions are creating it, those conditions would always be there. But yet
Yeah.
the northern lights aren't always there.
No, and you can often like sometimes like and even recently think about it like how we've been able to see and witness the northern lights across other regions that normally wouldn't have been able to happen, but because of like geomagnetic storms and because of other such things like different phenomenon because phenomenon doesn't have to be something that you just can't explain. Like phenomenon can be an everyday thing that happens that is not normal, and we don't there's no concrete explanation as to why it's occurring. And like, so like there's always magic happening all the time around us. We just have to be able to pay attention to the signs. And so like recently, like in the summertime, like you could see the northern lights in Illinois as far out as where I live, which is like a huge deal. And like to me, it had a very deep spiritual meaning. It still does to me. And yeah, like I'm gonna go there as soon as I'm capable of doing so.
Yeah, I gotta say, I've always been like a little jealous when, like, I have two friends in the UK that would send me photos and said, "Look what we saw tonight," and it's the Northern Lights, and I'm like, "That's really cool that you guys get to experience it." So I'm living
It
vicariously through
is.
you at the same time, going, "I'm not going to see them because I'm too far south."
But you could see them because they have been seen as far as Illinois and as far as Texas, even over the last few months, they have been seen out here. So, like, you could see them due to solar flares and stuff, you know?
Yeah, and the way things are in my world is every time they were like, "Oh, come see this natural phenomenon." I go outside to look and it's a cloudy night, so can't see
Mhm.
nothing. And I'm like, "Really?
Right.
Thanks."
Like that's all it is. Thank you a lot. I got my hopes up for nothing.
I'm like, "Way to build up the excitement for the clouds."
Right.
But I will say though, I did, and it was really interesting. I did get to experience the eclipse that recently happened
Oh,
that
cool.
everybody was talking about. And
Yeah.
it was so cool to sit there and stand outside. And it's like you could see everybody, and the sun was out. And then in a matter of minutes, it was so
Everything went dark.
dark that
Mhm.
street lights started coming on, solar lights started activating, and it's the middle of the afternoon. And
I
you're
thought it
like,
was cool.
this is not possible, but this is so cool to see daylight turn into nighttime, turn back into daytime. And it was like, really had the feeling of like traveling through time and going,
Yeah.
wow.
God is the ultimate alchemizer. He did it right there in front of us.
Were you in the area that got to see the full, or were you in the area that had partial?
I was in the area that got to see the full, and we had glasses and everything. The girls went out and seen it. My middle child, she tried to take her glasses off, and I was like, "No, don't do it. You'll go blind." Because like I don't know for sure if that's a lie or not. So just in case it's not a lie, I don't want her to go blind. And yeah, we seen it, and I remember whenever the darkness hit, it was like I got like total body chills. So it was cool.
What I found interesting was, and I'll admit, I'm probably more like your middle daughter than I
You
probably
took
would
your
ever want
glasses
to
off.
admit. I have looked at a lot of eclipses with my bare eyes, and everyone's like, "You're
What?
gonna go blind," and I'm like,
Yeah.
"My eyes are fine." But I'm also like, I don't recommend it. I don't ever tell people to do it, but yeah. And when I had the glasses on, I found it really hard to find and see like the sun and everything. It's like I would be looking and everything is pitch black. I'm like, I don't see it. And then I'd have to take them off, visually look at the sun, not move my head, put the glasses on, and then I'd be like, "Oh, there it is, that little light speck. That's the sun," and watch it disappear. And then when it was like gone, it's like I took the glasses off because I was like, it's dark. There's nothing to see with the glasses on, so I took them off, and I was like, wow, it really is nighttime.
Yeah, it was cool. I remember I took my glasses off, but I kept looking down like I don't want to go blind, just in case.
So I have a couple of questions more, but I'm noticing we're at the hour, so I don't know if you have time to go a little bit longer or if you have to go.
I can go a little longer.
Okay. One question I have for you is, and to me, I view it as a Mandela effect. So I'm curious your opinion. When it comes to the moon, I always seen growing up the moon at night. Never saw it in the daytime. Lately, for like the past 2 or 3, maybe 4 years, I see the
Hmm.
moon and the sun in the sky at the same time and it confuses me. Where are you at on that? Were you ever the no, the sun was never out during the day, or are you the it's always been out? I don't know what you're talking about.
Excuse me. For me, I've always seen it out during the day. I know people lately have been like, "Oh, it's out during the day. It has to be something." And like, but like, I've always seen it out during the day. I've always noticed it out during the day for years upon years. And I really think that it's a good sign because it's like the moon energy and the sun energy are getting closer to becoming one, so like just like how everything has to remain in balance in the laws of the universe, like the sun and the moon are becoming closer and closer together, you know. Hi, Derek.
And so I'm also curious, the other one that people have been raising, the color of the sun. Do you feel like it's changed or it's always been the same?
No, I mean, I do think it's changed. I think definitely there's been some interference with the sun. I think that it used to feel more of a warmer, brighter color, like it was more orange red, and now it's more white yellow. And I think that because they're manufacturing and interfering with the weather, and I completely believe that they're also trying to interfere with the sun, which is our life force energy, because they have an agenda. They, the fucking idiots who are trying to fucking change things around, who aren't going to win, are trying to like change things to where it's this source of energy isn't giving us the true sustenance that we as human beings really need. That's what I think.
Right. And I agree. And one of the things too is I, again, doing what I shouldn't have been doing as a kid on the school bus because I'd always be sitting in the back and had nothing else to do on the bus ride to school and back. I would stare at the sun if it was nearby and just watch it and watch the
Hmm.
aura of the sun like change, rotate, spin. And
Yeah,
so even that seems to have changed and altered, in my opinion.
I agree with you. It has. I mean, I think that we are in a different, like, I feel like we have all collectively shifted into like a different reality. And so we're going to notice a bunch of little changes everywhere. But one of the biggest things that we can notice in the change is how the sun and the moon look and how it makes us feel within ourselves. Because those are two major anchor points into each dimension as far as like these are the sustenance, like, these are what are feeding, these are like bread and butter that are feeding humanity, you know? And
Right.
I do think it's different. I think that we have shifted like tons of timelines within just even the last few years.
And I also have to say, when it comes to the sun, I often wonder when science tells us, oh, the sun is a star and the light that comes from it is millions of years old and it's going to eventually fade away and disappear. And I'm like, okay, I personally don't think the sun is ever going to disappear. I think it changes and adapts just like the earth does, just like we do. And so when they talk about the sun is dying, I'm like, I don't really think it is. I think it's, in my opinion, and you can correct me if I'm wrong or give your opinion. I view it as the death card of the tarot. It's just a transformation. It's not dying.
I,
It's
yeah,
just
I agree
transforming.
with you. Yeah, I mean it like and like just like we go through transformations, like we may look different on the outside, but in our core we're like the same inside, just like the sun. Like it could be perceived differently, but at the core it's the same, you know? And like we choose whether or not we perceive it as a good thing or bad thing or whatever.
Yeah, and I noticed like Dean is bringing up NASA, and I
Hmm.
will admit living in Texas near NASA, I will say NASA does not share truthfully things about the universe like they should,
Oh yeah.
in my
No,
opinion.
no it doesn't.
So
I
whenever
agree with you.
NASA releases something, I'm always in the back of my mind going, it's probably more honestly the opposite of what they're telling us.
I agree with you. Yeah. I mean, I think that they only give us a certain amount of truth, and then the rest of it they hide, and then it's just up to us to kind of figure it out. But like nothing that they tell us is for our good. They're not trying to help us out or do us any favors.
Right. And one of the things I look at, and yes, I'm noticing I'm back to the word right. I noticed, like, when it comes to NASA, one of the big things I have to say that always intrigues me is they have a budget of billions of dollars, and
Hmm.
yet, since the 60s to today, they have made zero advancement in going to space and back. They still
That's
utilize
absurd.
all the
Yeah.
same equipment, same methods.
Yeah, and they're still taking that money, you know?
And I'll say, those that know me, I'll drop movie clues every once in a while, lines. And Independence Day, my favorite all time scene is when Jeff Goldblum's dad is on the airplane on Air Force One, and they're like, how are they funding all of this? And he goes, do you really think they spent $1 billion on a toilet seat or a hammer? And I'm like,
That's
yeah, do you guys
hilarious.
notice the budget for items is like way off?
Right. That's funny. Yeah, they're definitely doing some cover up work for sure.
Yeah. So, what is next for Selena?
Hmm. I think for me, I'm trying to like work on my art, and I'm going to keep on trying to go on shows like yours, and just to help people the best that I can and to be the best version of myself. And other than that, I don't really have a plan. Oh, I'm going to graduate soon. So that's exciting because I will be a psychologist. And then, because after I graduate with my bachelor's degree, I'm going to go for my master's. And then after I get my master's, I'm going to go for my doctorate. And I'm going to help people.
Well, congratulations on
Thank you.
graduating soon.
Thank you.
And I wish you all the luck in going for masters and the PhD.
Thank you, Michael.
And as for your saying coming on to shows like mine, you are welcome on anytime.
Thank you. I really had fun. I felt very comfortable. Meow. Meow. Meow.
And I will say, I was interested in where we were going to go with the metaphysics and the paranormal because we have that
Hmm.
in common.
Yeah.
And I will share because I'm sure it's nothing personal, but we
Yeah.
also have anime in common, so that is
Yes, we
totally
do.
funny.
Yeah. And you seen all the Dragon Ball Z's.
I have. Well,
I
I
haven't
haven't
seen any of
finished the
those.
supers, but I've seen
I'm a
majority of
Naruto
them.
person. Yeah. I'm gonna cosplay. There's a actually I don't know why I'm telling you this right now because camera, but yeah. So there's like a anime festival coming up in St. Louis in January, and I'm totally gonna go cosplay Hinata from Naruto.
That would be. You'll have to send me photos.
I'll send you pictures. Yeah, it's gonna be my very first one. I'm just gonna like show up, because like I've decided that I'm no longer gonna allow my fear to dictate to me like what I can and cannot do. I'm just gonna show up very authentically as myself each and every day. And the people that don't like it, they don't like it, and the people that do like it, then those are my people, because I'm tired and I'm just wore out from like just like pretending to be a different version of myself whenever I'm fine how I am, and then the right people will gravitate towards you,
Right.
ultimately.
And Dean brings up, he's like, Deadpool versus Wolverine was an absolute cringe.
Yeah, it was Dean. I didn't like it either. I'll be honest.
I haven't seen it, and I can honestly say the only thing to me that I thought was the most entertaining part about it in the previews was Ryan Reynolds and oh, Hugh Jackman going back and forth on the TikTok videos, just making
I
fun of
seen
each
those
other.
TikTok videos. Yeah, I seen those. I remember those. They were funny. But
Oh,
I forgot what I was gonna say. But yeah, um, yeah.
yeah. Oh man, Akira's gone? That's not cool. If I'm
No.
not mistaken, that's the voice of I want to say Goku, but I don't think it's Goku. I think it's one of his
So,
kids.
Michael, have you seen Inuyasha?
Rasha?
Inuyasha, it's an anime. It's a
Ooh,
pretty
I
classic.
love Inuyasha.
You have or you haven't?
Oh, I've seen it, and I have saved. I found out Inuyasha had a kid, a daughter,
Yeah.
and so I'm
He was
waiting.
creeping around. Yeah. Go ahead.
But yeah, so yes, I've seen. Uh, oh, so we're apparently so. Viewpoint of the show is you can skip Deadpool and Wolverine if you want.
And always be yourself.
Yes. Oh, that's right. They were Akira is the creator of Dragon Ball Z.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Thank you,
I've seen
Derek.
so many anime. I've seen so many animes though. Like some people would be like, "This is the lamest thing I've ever watched." Like Fruit Basket. I don't have you ever seen Fruits Basket? You'd say you think it was stupid because of the kind of anime that I know that you like. You you wouldn't like that, but I've watched it. I'll be honest.
Oh, Derek, I'll have to check that out. His son took over, so I'll have to see what's
Ah,
next in
that's
store.
cool. Very cool.
Yeah, and I will say one thing I'm curious with the because how in common we are, so to speak, is do you ever
Hmm.
watch anime and you're like, wait a minute, that totally makes sense of what this is in my life, or this totally makes sense of what I was wanting to understand in this principle.
Yeah.
Like
Sorry, I don't.
Bleach,
Like what was?
how they flash step around. I was like, man, that totally made sense to how I can move around in the astral plane.
Yeah, I think all of the anime and a lot of the Asian shows have so many secrets as to far as like how the universe is actually ran and like the structure of the hierarchy within like demonic and angelic realms. I think they definitely do a good job at those type of things because if you look at a reoccurring theme between like many animes, it's often like demonics, and their term for demons or something different than we as Americans understand. It just means like a possession or like a type of energy that has overtaken this person, which would,
Right.
I guess, necessarily be an entity. But yeah,
True, and Dean is like, yeah, anime battles like Bleach do the explanation of why I moved does this or that. It's all very
yeah,
astral. It is actually,
it
and
is. Bleach is a good anime. Yeah. So is Death Note. If you haven't seen Death Note, you should watch that.
I am putting it on my list. And
It's intense though. That guy's dark, but I mean, he like reaches a breaking point and he's just like, and they made a live action of that. That's really intense and creepy too.
yeah, a lot of people are. We'll have to do a show about anime in the
Okay.
metaphysical and everything.
We can go through the
Excuse me.
symbolism in it.
Yeah, because a lot of people are talking about it. Let's see. Your sword had no effect. but it's special vistas, enemy.
That's funny, Dean.
Demon Slayer.
Demon
That
Slayer
one
is
was
good.
interesting to me because if I'm not mistaken, that's the one where his sister turns into a demon, and so he hunts the demons to try and cure.
That's an intense one. Have you ever seen? All right, everyone's gonna think this one's really lame, and I don't care. I still like it, but it's called Fairy Tale, and it's really good, but it's like kind of one of those ones that are made for like guys because it's got like the girls with the boobs and stuff, and then it like zooms in, so it's not appropriate for children, but like it's got a good story, like really, and yeah, I definitely recommend that one.
One that I liked watching, I just thought about it, and I think there's three versions of it, was the
Yeah.
Sword Art Online.
Oh, I seen all the Sword Art Online. I like that one a lot.
Kirito
Have you
was
seen
like, oh, my favorite character.
Have you seen Elfen Lied? That one is really intense. It's got a lot of blood, and it does not at all like it doesn't start out at all like how you expect, and then it goes just like violent within a second. That one's intense.
Yeah. Oh, Derek, you brought up a good one. The Gundam series. There are some that
I
I
haven't.
like better than others.
Is that with the samurai guy? I don't think I haven't seen all those. He rides
No,
like a little
the
dog.
so the Gundam series is it's a future where man's in space and they have colonies in space and people on the earth, and there's two factions. One's
Hmm.
trying to outdo the other militarily and take over the other one. And so the colonies, if I'm remembering it right, created these specialized mech units that could change from plane to robot form, and they were special material, and they needed special pilots that could fuse their mind with the machine to operate properly.
I've seen that. Yeah, I've seen that. I mean, don't you think that's what we're doing right now in these human vessels is using our consciousness to learn to operate our bodies to optimal ability? Like, really? I mean, what like, think about that, like the symbolism in that.
Oh, I totally agree, and
Yeah.
I often wonder. We talk about disclosure coming through movies and TV shows and forms,
Hmm.
and I wonder if like Japan is so far ahead of us that they put it in their anime and manga.
They do. I mean, that's what I mean, I've seen a lot of like, so I don't know if you've seen any like, do you ever watch like K dramas or anything like that? Or like Chinese dramas or anything like that?
I haven't seen any drama shows.
Okay, well, there's this one. It's like Angel versus Demon, and that in itself had so many metaphysical like topics that they were exploring and explaining within the show itself that it shocked me because I was simultaneously learning this on my own through my research as I was like watching the show for fun. And then as I because you know how it is, like you're learning this heavy concept and you don't necessarily catch it right away. And then you watch something or you're looking around you and then the concept comes together. And then that's how it was for me with that show. So whether it was the show has the themes or it was me studying the themes at the time because I was studying the tree of life, the Kabbalah, and it just like clicked so many things into place for me, and it was mind blowing.
That's interesting, and I'll admit I'm a little bit behind on the animes because
I am too.
I don't have time to watch as many anymore,
I
and
don't.
I don't
I
have
don't either.
I don't have access to like television like I used to because things, just come up and everything, and life happens,
Yeah,
and so
it does.
I'm waiting for, like, I'll admit, like Bleach. They're in the 1,000 Year Blood War series. I've
Hmm.
seen the first part of it because I finally got the DVD, and I'm getting the DVDs of each part so that I can watch them all complete and follow along. But the one thing I find interesting with Bleach that I think is different from the other animes, and I could be wrong because this is just my opinion of what I've experienced. The way Ichigo, the character, comes about and his life starts really versus, how the series starts and his growth and everything through his mannerisms. I feel like is almost like a roadmap for people who are wanting to awaken to stuff. But at the same
Yeah,
time, I'm like, yeah, you're awakening to things, but there are gonna be roadblocks.
yeah, your shadow work, you know?
Yeah, and that's one of the things I think is most interesting about Bleach. And I don't know why they only do it with Ichigo, but they do the shadow work. They show it because they'll show him having to, when he's learning new things, he has to face his shadow side.
Yeah, yeah, I think in like integrating a balance between like your shadow side and your light side is the key into being your best self, because like, we can't hold ourselves in judgment for the things that we feel guilty for that aren't like what everyone else thinks that we should do, but we also have to like hold within ourselves a certain standard as well, but then also be able to integrate that side of us that doesn't always make it, you know? Because it's okay. It's like we're all just figuring it out, and we can't put any guilt on ourselves, because once we start putting that pressure on ourselves to do more, to do better in a negative kind of way, and then it kind of like creates us into a feeling of I'm never going to get outside of this, and that puts boundaries instead of allowing us to open a door or a gate, you know.
And it is, and
My
I think
phone's
we
about to
could.
die. I'm sorry. I had to put it on
Oh,
the charger.
oh, you're fine. I was just about to say we could keep going and talking about more and more of this, but I know you got kids there that are wanting to.
Yeah, they want to get out of their room.
Yeah, I mean, who would ever think kids want to get off of gaming
This
systems?
the Xbox. It's addictive.
It is, but I want to thank you for coming on and being a guest. I so appreciate it.
Thank you, Michael, for having me. I had a really good time, and I felt like we just like it flew by. It was so fun. So thank you.
You're welcome. And Derek, if you go back and watch the replay, we actually get into that. So there you go. You'll have to watch the replay. And I agree with Jason. This was fun. And you as well. And we got to cover a lot of topics.
Yep.
So, in closing this episode up, and again, appreciate everything from your life experience. What
Hmm.
is a golden nugget that you would like to leave the audience with?
Uh, Nobody has anything figured out. Nobody. Like, think about the most people, the person that you think has it most together, they don't have it figured out. They do not have it figured out. And they have bad moments, they have bad days, they have times when they're crying, they're puking in their bathroom because they're so upset. Like, don't give up because you think that you can't compare to someone else. Like, make your own goals, set them for yourself, make them accessible, and go for it. And have people around you that can support you. We all need connection, we all need each other. None of us have it figured out. And the fact is that human beings, we would literally die and wither away to nothing if we didn't have anyone around us. That's the nature of being human. We need each other, and we need each other to be supportive. We need each other's feedback, and we need to be real and authentic with each other so that we can show each other what it's like to be a real, authentic person. So don't ever feel like you're not good enough, because that's what the enemy wants you to think, is that you're not good enough. They want to keep you from your potential. And your potential, it can go anywhere. If you have the imagination to take you there, and you have the desire to work for it, you can do anything that you put your mind to. And don't let anyone ever put you in a box. Even don't let even your best friends tell you you're crazy. If you decide and put your mind to something, go for it, do it. Because I'm a walking example. Like, I didn't think I would do this, and here I am. So, like, you can do anything, and don't let anybody tell you any different.
I agree, and that's so beautifully said. And it's interesting because I had a mind
Hmm.
memory come in of a DJ that passed away that I used to enjoy listening to. And I actually got reminded of this when talking with a friend about something going on with her. And I'm actually going to close with his statement, and I will give full credit to Kid Craddock and the Kid Craddock Morning Show. Then they're the way they would end every DJ episode or session or whatever they called their show. How they would end it is they would all get together and say, "Keep looking up, because that's where it all is."
Yeah.
And so, with that, I'm going to say goodnight to everyone, and we will see you next week for the next episode. And stay tuned because you never know. We're hoping, and season 3 coming, you might see Selena. So stay tuned. Good night, everyone.
Bye. Good night.